How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to speak with you. I really respect your work and I appreciate your posts.
Oh,
Thank,
thank you.
thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
inviting me.
Appreciate that. So this is Catherine Hummel, and you apparently uh, like to help people that want to figure out their life, huh?
Yeah, that want to figure out their love life.
Oh
Yes,
boy.
I'm deeply passionate about that.
Wow, wow. And you work mostly with women.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
exclusively with women?
I work with women only and am recently I'm participating in Terry Real's relational life therapy program. So I'm
Okay.
going to be working with couples.
Oh, great.
So
Great,
that's
great, great.
been super, super awesome lately.
Great, great, great. Have you have you started that yet?
Yes.
Great,
Yes.
great, great, great. And you're doing some practice. Is this like a year-long course type thing? What is it?
No, I work with women between, and sometimes for a year, but one on one. And then with couples, what I've been doing recently are these day-long intensives.
Oh,
So
great.
actually just spending a whole day with a couple. And I'm finding I love that way more than a longer term process where they get to see in real time, what it actually takes to get connected and heal.
Yeah, yeah. I had a couple yesterday, a new one, and or 2 days ago actually, and uh, the most fascinating experience is the very beginning because they don't know any of my tricks yet,
Right.
and to see the transformation that happens in the first session is pretty phenomenal because people wind up coming to me actually after they've been to many other counselors, therapists. That just happens a lot, so it's really amazing to me to watch that. They may have had 3, 4, 5, or 6 counselors, and the word vulnerability was never used once
Yeah.
in any of it. And the first thing that is so fascinating is just how much we take the easy road when we're counseling a couple to teach them things intellectually,
Mm.
right? To tell them things and to teach. So like if all else fails and I don't know what to do, I'll just start teaching.
Right.
Right. And if I'm talking more than a minute, they're not listening anyway. So that's my food for thought on couple. Do you relate to that with what you're learning right now?
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about how scary it is when people come after saying they had been to a therapist and nothing shifted, or I'll say, what did you learn?
Yeah.
And, and my one of the most recent couples I had been with, I mean, they were in a very, very bad place. And both of them really keep saying to me, like, this feels like magic, like, how is it magic? And it's like, it's not magic when you know what to do.
Okay.
And nobody teaches us what vulnerability actually sounds like. Nobody teaches
Yeah.
us what it looks like when I'm in my heart and not in my defensive ego. No
Yeah.
one teaches us what an apology actually looks like and how healing it is for us to feel seen and heard and understood, right? To know that we're cared about. Like,
Yeah.
that changes our whole body.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're in a course that you feel is really able to teach you how to tap into that. Because they can't
Yes.
just teach you how to do that. You got to have some kind of gifts coming with you already. And that's what this course is pulling out of you, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Terry Real is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think I've become a phenomenal coach because of the personal depth work that I've done. Because that's what we're seeing with therapists. Like, you can teach exactly what you're saying. You can teach somebody what to do, but if there isn't an integrated, process for the individual who's then becoming the coach or therapist, doesn't
Okay.
really matter. There's a lot of energy dancing
Yeah.
in a room.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like that term. Are you we have another person coming in to watch if that's okay.
Of course.
And we'll see.
Of course, I'd love to hear about what your program is.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's
This
listening?
this is a kind of like a mastermind group. I have a whole series of videos. When people sign up, they watch on different topics, male sexuality and dating. And I have kind of a law of attraction, self-love course. If you watched it, you would say, oh, wow, that's like a lot like Abraham, and it's pretty similar stuff, except I relate it directly to the dating world.
Oh, cool.
And the most effective thing, I had this whole plan, and the most effective thing I believe is this Facebook group where, we're into something like 2,000 comments now, or maybe more on, in the last 9 or 10 months. And what those comments are the women in the group posting very specific questions about their dating life. And I answer. And we get more and more detailed, and it often leads to, screenshots on their phone of the third date they're on and their text messages and what does this mean. And it's been fascinating. I need to take that material and turn it into something bigger. Like the comments are just fascinating. So this video will go in there, and we can put it anywhere we want. You can, if you like it, we can use it. We can post it anywhere. So are you moving away from the dating teaching with women, or is that still a very hot thing? You're
very hot.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Very hot thing. I love all things relationship, right? It's miraculous when a woman who has gone from feeling helpless and hopeless and powerless when it comes to dating to meeting the love of her life and feeling beautiful and empowered and totally connected to the woman who's been in relationship for a while and wants to heal, right? And learn what it takes to heal and create a new relationship even already inside it. So all things love. All things love.
So women come to you and they say, I have a love life that's not working. And where do you begin? Is there a beginning point? That's kind of a general thing. You could say a place you begin. Like, what questions do you ask? What questions?
The beginning, of course, is tell me about what is happening, right? And sometimes it's absolutely nothing, right? Sometimes it's I go on a lot of first dates, but I don't get a second date. Sometimes it's I am meeting men, we're going on dates for, 5 weeks and then they disappear.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of nothing's sticking, right? They can't grasp and keep what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and they don't know what happened, right? They have no idea what happened.
Right.
Okay. Do you see patterns generally over all the clients that you have, patterns that push men away? Are there things that you're noticing?
Yes. I mean, I think part of what can feel magical in relationship is there aren't millions of different patterns. There's just a couple core patterns that get acted out. And I personally do a lot of childhood work. I think it's kind of impossible to do relationship work without childhood work, because all we're doing is acting that out, right? Acting out what we learned how to do in order to feel love, what we learned how to do in order to get our needs met, right? And most of the time, what's dancing for women is they're dating from, I need him to like me. I need him to approve of me. I need him to think I'm great. And so how do I manage and manipulate myself into becoming who I think he wants, or manage and manipulate myself so I'm so afraid to say anything truthful or authentic at all. So it's like being robots. When we're dating, most people are just so afraid.
And do you, so you feel that they are afraid to be themselves So now there's a pattern I've been working very closely with several women that actually aren't in the group that are private, and they fill the space with too much masculine work, energy and words and intimacy, pseudo intimacy, false, nonstop trying to connect by talking and talking and talking. And that is such a consistent pattern in women, and it's fascinating to slow that down and have them recognize what that is. Now, what do you think that is? Do you have ideas when women are doing that? Are they doing the same thing you just described, just trying to get somebody to like them by talking and talking?
It's a fear response, right? To keep talking, because there's nothing more vulnerable than being present, truly present with someone.
Yeah.
And so I'm filling the space because it might be unbearable for me to be in my body and receptive and open to this person's world, because that's what we're doing when we're talking and when we're dating. We're entering someone's world, right? Who are you? What do you love? And the constant talking is I'm not in my body. I'm not sensing how it even feels to be in the presence of this person. And what do I actually want to say versus what do I think I'm supposed to say? And of course, how do I fill the space? Because if I pause, then I might actually feel my fear of him rejecting me or abandoning me. We've just met. And I don't even know if I like him yet.
Yeah. I don't know if I like him yet. Isn't that the sentence? Yeah. So it's a nervous, patterned, continuous set of words, right? That come out of the woman's mouth. Now, what is fascinating as I break this down with different clients, what they're often trying to do is impress a man. They want to talk about their accomplishments, their work, what they've done, what they've learned. They want to actually kind of announce how, all of their intricate details of their intimacies in their life and stories. And what is fascinating is that most of those things are not what a man is looking for.
Right.
And that's really, really tricky to get across because, there's this dead air silence I have in my clients when I actually kind of push them a little to pause and say, well, I ask them, what might you say next? Right? And they have absolutely no idea. So have you gotten to that kind of detail with some of your clients where they're just like, wow, if I don't do all this, talk about my work, I'm a physician, for God's sakes, I'm a surgeon. That's going to make the man fall in love with me. Well, no, it's not. Yeah. Right. So what do you tell them to do kind of inside themselves?
Well, before they even begin dating, they arrive. They must arrive from the place of I'm worthy and I'm enough and I'm lovable. Because if I start dating without knowing those three truths, then, and beautifully, as you just said, right, I'm on the date trying to prove to you that I'm worthy and enough and lovable. Okay. Rather than being a woman who is worthy, enough, and lovable. And then I understand that I'm not what I do. Yeah. Right? I don't need to prove to you anything. And I can find that there's so much of the whole universe that is me. And I know who I am. Yeah. And then I teach to be super focused on being curious, right? When you can feel that essence of this is an entire universe sitting across the table from me right now. Holy crap, there's like millions of things I could want to know.
Yeah.
And feeling the joy, we're in the practice first of having them feel the joy of discovering themselves.
Okay.
Which then can be translated on a date, right? When they realize, wait, I'm not my job, right? What do I love? What makes me me? It's exquisite, right? They experience intimacy with themselves to then be available for it and present for it when they're dating. And then dating can actually be fun when I'm not trying to prove anything, when I'm not trying to get love, when I'm just in the joy of being myself and totally trusting that I will meet the right person for me.
Yeah, I'll add one thing, which is okay, so I get it, dating, as something that's fun and really enjoying yourself and being with yourself. It's actually, I've had many clients say to me, well, I am just being myself. Right. So we have quite a dilemma there because, then I say, I know you are, and what you're doing is incorrect. What you're doing is harming your date, not the other person, just harming the date itself. And it's a risk to not have, my eyes out there on you and my whole being out focused on you, to be actually sitting back, leaning back literally in my chair with me and being with me is an enormous risk, and it takes courage, and it's uncomfortable, and it's scary, and it's really the only way to go to go slow enough to actually recognize, oh, he just said something. I like what he said. I'm going to think for a moment about what he just said, and I'm going to see if I can connect to it and relate with it, right? What I just described, it sounds like pretty simple. It sounds pretty kindergarten, and it takes, many hours of training to bring a woman into being strongly with herself. This is actually not a male-female thing. This is actually a all of us thing.
Yeah.
So do you relate to anything I'm saying about how big of a deal that is? That the woman has to change. She has to change those patterns. Do you relate to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And the being yourself, it's funny, I've been thinking about wanting to make a video just about that dating advice, just the be yourself dating advice, because we are many selves. And women who are stuck in little girl will really believe, right? I am being myself because I only know myself as a little girl.
Yeah.
Right? Or I am being myself when I'm being the warrior.
Yeah.
Right? Or I am being myself when the voice that leads meetings is the voice that then shows up on a date.
Yeah.
And intimacy, the exchange you just said of what it means to lean back and be in my body. There's a me and a you.
Yeah.
And that is intimacy. And that's what's so vulnerable. I have to not only let you into my world, right, and know my heart and know my mind and know my feelings, know my dreams, but I have to receive yours too.
Yeah.
And that can only happen when I'm in my essential self, not the person I think I'm supposed to be, not the person I've habitually been, not my fear, which is a whole energy, or my ego, a whole energy unto itself.
Right. Good stuff. I've been playing around recently with, I don't have a good name for it yet, but it's the point at which, even if it's on a first date, the point at which there's discomfort inside with a woman trying to do things differently and being with herself. Now that's a really tricky moment because I'm a big fan of learning how to learn the right vulnerable words to say in the moment about what's really happening right now. What often happens is a woman will do this and then tag it along at the end with a little criticism of the man. Often he deserves it, but that's not the issue, whether he deserves it or not. The issue is understanding something very specific that's happening for a man. Okay. We all know that, kind of a woman, I mean, this is kind of cliche, but a woman, on the first date, she's planning her wedding and she sees, the big future with the guy and everything. Yeah, maybe that's true. And that's in their nature. But what a man's doing is not exactly planning a wedding and planning, oh my God, I'm going to get married. It's going to be so exciting. I'm going to have this big party. That's not what he's planning. But he is planning the future individually, one-on-one, with how it'll be to interact with this woman.
Right.
When he gets criticized on the first date, it's done. He doesn't even need to know. He doesn't even often know he's doing this, but he's projecting out very simply how difficult this relationship's going to be by how tough the woman was on him. The biggest thing I harp on is going slow. Okay. And when a woman goes too fast, and let's say the obvious one where she takes her clothes off, she gets too physical too fast. Okay. Mm-hmm. What actually happens is she doesn't truly know the meaning of what his words mean. It becomes so much projection when she lowers her guard down that much that she actually doesn't know what is happening. So he'll say something and she'll think that, oh wow, that's profound. He's really real. He's really truthful. He's really deep. He really wants a commitment. I will tell you, there's almost nothing a man can say on a first date to prove that he wants monogamy. There's almost nothing. Men will say that whether they want every range of relationships. They will say, oh, I want an intimate relationship, just one-on-one. Doesn't matter what kind he really wants. So all of this is happening, and it's a very strange experience I'm talking about here. There's so much projection going on that all I want a woman to do is observe and be curious and listen to a little bit and take everything with a grain of salt. Everything that sounds like, oh my God, this is the right man for me, or oh my God, he's a jerk, I don't want to be with him. Everything needs to be put in the gray area in the middle, because you actually don't know what any of it means. Hence, a woman takes her clothes off, she gets intimate, she opens her heart, she doesn't understand why he's not reaching back out to her. And the reason is because she doesn't know anything about what his words mean yet and where he's coming from. Okay, that was hard to get out. That's I used to say that in a lot simpler way, but I'm actually really working with clients on this exact thing, on how much it's all projection.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you think about what do you think about all of that?
I don't know how people have relationships without understanding projection.
Yeah.
And I, like you, the most important thing is teaching how to go slow.
Okay.
And I'm super clear on teaching just not to have sex for at least 6 or 8 dates. Okay. And I like that. On a first date, essentially, I can be so bold as to say, you don't know anything after one date, other than, did I have a pretty good time? Yeah. Could we have a conversation? Right? Yeah. Did I feel good about myself on that night? Right? Is he someone that I would like to get to know? Yeah. And I definitely am a spiritual relationship coach. I like considering spiritual meets skill. And one of my favorite lines in A Course in Miracles is, we need to make our romantic relationships more friendly and our friendships more romantic. So that's the core teaching for me around when you're on a first date, you're seeing, can I be friends with this person? Is this someone that I respect and how they view the world that I appreciate? Because I am a recovered love addict, codependent, right?
Okay.
I thought I loved my ex-boyfriend, but I didn't like him very much.
Okay.
Right. So the good old Parks and Recreation, I love you and I like you, right, is the goal, right? I love you and I like you. So you date from, can I even feel like I'm friends with this person, that we can hold a conversation and not to, how beautiful what you just said, not make any assumptions about what their words mean or who they are on a first date. We're all our mask on our first date, but even no matter how vulnerable we want to commit to being, right? We're not going to lead with our most authentic, essential self on a first date, and we shouldn't actually, because I don't know yet if this person is trustworthy,
right,
or even safe enough for me to share myself with.
Yeah, the word that's coming to me, I want to talk about for a sec is criticism, and I mean very specifically of criticism from the woman to the man. This is a big stumper that I talk about a lot with people, and it's okay. I talk about being being vulnerable and being real about what's happening in the moment. And as a woman, you're on let's say a first date, maybe a second, and the man has done something that you're annoyed by. Now, this is a very confusing moment because we're just people. We're going out, we're hanging out. You're going to do something stupid, and it might not represent all of you, or who you really are. It might be an accident or something that who knows. So the woman has a legitimate gripe about the man, and that is her opportunity to learn that, first of all, she doesn't know him well enough yet to start doing confrontations. Her job is to watch and observe how he is and make a decision later with her coach, with her friends, on her own.
Right.
It's to go away and make a decision. However, there's a real learning that needs to happen there, because when you're on your fifth date, right, and it's time to actually start talking about, like, are we, are you coming home with me? I mean, real topics, right? She has to deal with something that is actually, I'm actually getting more how I think this is strongly a female part, that the criticism is almost the only way she knows how to get her needs met from him. Yes. To tell him something, to poke and prod at him. Men don't do it in the same exact way. I mean, we're sarcastic. We could be as nasty as anybody. But what we're really dying to figure out is just how the hell to make you happy, right? Like how to be of service, how to get a job done right, and have you like us. That's often the prime thing we're searching for. So that is, do you work directly with women on, okay, so this is going on in you, this is what you want to say to him? Do you actually teach them how to use vulnerability really sensitively to quote unquote tell a man what he's doing wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
It is. I mean, criticizing, right, is one of the 4 horsemen of how to destroy a relationship. And it absolutely is an impulse and habit for women as a way of avoiding vulnerability, a way of avoiding personal accountability for the experience they're having.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of, I guess I do so much work. So like when someone hires me, like they have to stop dating for at least 6 weeks.
Okay.
They're about to change their whole state of consciousness. So we just take it off the table. And
Okay.
there's a huge piece of work around healing their relationship with men that actually prevents that habit from even happening, right? Because most of the time women are on the date with if they have not healed their relationship with men, if they're still holding on to past hurts,
Mhm.
right? They're on the date saying, he needs to prove to me that he's a good man, right?
Yeah.
He needs to prove to me that he's not like my ex-boyfriend, right? And that's really not fair.
Okay.
And behind every complaint
Mhm.
is a want,
Mhm.
right? So when they get that of actually noticing like, ooh, what am I, feeling that impulse to complain about or make wrong,
Mhm.
and then pause long enough to say, what am I really feeling and what am I really wanting?
Yeah. 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 If I have a criticism that I need to say to you, I'm pretty convinced there's always a vulnerable way to approach it.
Always.
I'm gonna give you a fascinating example. The I'm working with a couple, and you know, she really wants to be able to elbow her husband in a movie when something funny's happened.
Hmm.
Okay. And she does sometimes. Okay. And he takes it as a pretty serious sign of
Hmm.
not being respected. And he was physically abused. And it is a massive trigger.
Yeah.
Now that sounds like an absolutely impossible scenario. As they're describing it to me, they're talking about this like, we're 8 years into this problem.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, so and this is on a first session, where I met them. Now she criticizes him for it all the time. Okay. Now think about 10, 12, 14 years going by with that kind of a problem. All right. So what I said to her and him, what I explained was, if they get on track and they connect with each other, right? Let's pretend what could happen in the future one day. What could happen is if you're both sitting in a theater and something interesting happens, and he notices she saw something really cool happen in a movie, he can kind of go over and whisper to her under his control, you could elbow me right now if you want to. Okay. So she started crying when I said that, because a whole new world of possibility opens.
Right.
Now, what did I just explain? I just explained ask permission. Um, Include your partner's oversensitivity, right? There's no such thing, but let's call it oversensitivity to that issue. And let's include that in your experience when you're about to criticize, right? Let's include who they actually are.
Hmm.
So in this interaction with them, I had a little bit of an agenda of thinking, wow, this is going to be a really good solution. He opens up to his wife for the first time ever and explains to her the level of beatings he took in his home country and fistfights and how this is triggering that. Okay. So 12, 14 years can go by without that story being explained, right? Because of the defensiveness of, I want this from you and you're going to give it to me and there's no other options available, right? You have to include everything into like, my hands are cupped. Like everything's got to become a couplehood problem if you want to solve it, right? Which means I have to include every single possible sensitivity you have in my choice of how I approach you, when I make a choice to approach you.
Right.
So is that in line with your kind of the couples work you're doing? That was a mouthful, but
No, thank you so much. It was, I'm sure, beautiful for everyone who gets to hear that. You know, I don't know if no one can, I don't know if people see me, but when you made the comment that she would criticize him or think that he needed to just deal with her being able to elbow him, like I almost started to cry.
yeah,
It broke my heart. I mean, it breaks my heart all the time.
yeah,
The lack of empathy
yeah,
that we are, you know, struggling with as a society,
yeah,
you know, and social media is making it infinitely worse. But you cannot have healthy relationship without empathy.
yeah.
And I mean, my soapbox is impact.
Mm-hmm.
That relationship is, I must be so attuned and aware that everything I do impacts my partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I need to be checking with what I do. How does it impact you? Right?
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Right? If it was me and my husband asked me to not elbow him,
Yeah.
right? I would turn and actually have an intimate, vulnerable conversation with them, curious why, what happens for you when I do that?
Yeah.
Because I'd like to, and I don't know what happens for you. And then if my husband said that's what happened to him, right? I'd immediately stop.
Yeah.
And then facilitate exactly what you just did, which is he'd be able to then say, right? He knows it's something that I would like, right? And then we can actually work together.
Yeah.
Right? So in my training, it's how do I help you help me get what I need?
Yeah.
So that we're actually acting as a team.
Yeah. 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 You know, I in that scenario, and I'm mixing a couple couples here together in the story just because it's pertinent. I can slow these things down, and I can have a couple at this point where they're relating in such a touching way. And actually, I did have tears come when with that story. It was mind-boggling. It was so deep. And so they're in this amazing close conversation now. One of those conversations where they actually forgot I was there in the room with them, which means like, you know, my job's done. It's just great, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what's so tricky. You know, I have to really often slow a man down to say, okay, you know, tell her something slowly and intimately. Like I had to interrupt him about 3 or 4 times to get him to tell that deeper story. And he started doing it. Now, as his coach, I'm supposed to be doing that. But the woman could not stop responding with a little more coaching. No matter how, even though a couple times he started, he was more vulnerable than he's probably been in 5 years. It's patterned in her mind to say, no, just go into your heart, sweetie. Just go into your heart, right? And you cannot be the man's coach. You know, just like we shouldn't be your coach, right?
Or therapist.
Or therapist. If you want to keep, you know, if you want to ever have sex again, you shouldn't be each other's coach, pretty much, right?
Pretty much.
So it's that moment of her having no idea what to do, and what to do is vulnerability. And I'll be specific here because that word can get really overused by me. You know, I slowed her down and I said, okay, so you don't want to coach him. You know, what you want to say is, you know, oh my God, I'm so touched by you telling me this. This is the deepest part of your story as a teenager I've ever heard. Like, I would love to listen. So, and then I asked her to make eye contact with him and repeat that, and you know, in her words. But usually my words are pretty verbatim. They do, and then he's crying. Right. Now that in her mind, and she was even going slow, but in her mind, there's no other choice point other than coaching him to tell him to change and be different and become better. Here's the irony. He does have to change. He does have to become different. He does have to get better, but by me telling him what to do, or whoever, not by her. It can't be her. And this is the pain of so many couples where it's very hard to find a good coach who can steer them directly into this. I'm glad to hear, I'm sure you are. I can hear that you're doing exactly that.
I am in there.
Yeah.
Like it is exactly managing each person's speaking, right? Coaching what vulnerability actually sounds like, right? It becomes, the couple I worked with just a couple weeks ago, the wife had moved out, right? They had moved out, and after 8 hours of vulnerability, depth, accountability, intimacy, right? They bought a brand new house together, right? And they're the ones saying it's magic, like it's magic. And I have so much compassion for people. So much of why I became a relationship coach is because we don't learn this.
Yeah.
We don't learn this. And we have a desire. This 2018, we want the lover, the best friends, right? The passionate, alive, amazing relationship. Nobody's, okay with companionship and settling anymore.
Right.
Like I love that the energy is that people are wanting, right, an extraordinary experience in partnership, but the accountability is to get that it's something I create, not something that just happens, not something that's a result of just choosing the right person.
Yeah.
And one of the very first things I teach women is do not interrupt a man when he's talking. Like that's like they have to write it on a Post-it note, like in their office, in their bedroom. And some of them, right, they're counting to themselves, like to shut up, and I work from home and I'm a coach. I have a whole ritual of before I walk out of my office to greet my husband, I let go of coach. That coach stays in the office. And so that same, be yourself. I teach a first date ritual, right? A ritual for women to do before they even go out, right? Women need to have rituals of shifting from work mode into wife. And totally thank you for the comment of, if you ever want to have sex again, right? Don't coach your man, don't mother your man. And I'm, it's not rocket science of why people stop having sex. Like you stop having sex because you got into a parent-child roommate bonding pattern. Yeah. And the way out is through intimacy and vulnerability and making it matter to actually connect with each other and look into each other's eyes and listen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, there's a couple patterns that have really come together in my mind lately about this same exact thing that happens every time. I on a very first session, I'll let a couple talk for 15 or 20 minutes, no matter how much they're going in circles about their issue. I have to establish a rapport that, it takes 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm usually pretty in there with the first thing I say. So I have this rapport, but I've been listening to them for 15 or 20 minutes. Then when I ask a couple questions and they start doing it again, then I interrupt them. Now this thing that I tell them almost every couple is I say, when I interrupt you, it's because one of you has said something incredibly important. So I want you to plant that in your mind, and let's go really slow here so this can get really planted. When I interrupt, you've done something important. Now let's talk about what that important thing is, because it's incredibly general and it applies to every couple I think I've ever seen, without exception. One of them says something, and it's deep and meaningful and rich, and not said vulnerably, and it's never been resolved. And that happens constantly. And so I stop them and I say, wait, okay, say, wait. Okay. So what just happened, just went by us really fast. And here's what it was. And I tell them, and it's when you said, ABC. And that's never been resolved in your relationship. And that's the entire reason you argue. And then I sit back and I say nothing, and I don't have to interrupt anybody for the next minute because they're just sitting there going, oh my Lord, right? That is the reason we argue, because the first thing out of one of our mouths is the thing that is being struggled with, right? And for them to know what to do next, it's like I start with a criticism, and then you might hear it and react well. But then that might trigger something in the other person again, right? So what I say to them is, whoever is the wisest one in the room at the moment is the one who interrupts the pattern, right? That's the thing that needs to happen next. This is actually something that is, this is book worthy, this thing, because there's very few things that I've narrowed down to happening with every couple. And I for the past couple of weeks, I've actually been racking my brain about this. Like, I'm going through couple after couple. They all do this. They skip what's important. And that is the breakdown of romance. And that's the breakdown of sexuality. And, and a couple that has a screaming, crying 5-year-old child that's having particularly difficult problems and sleeping in bed with mom and dad is exhausting for the parents, and they have no idea what to do. They're also abandoning each other in their communication about it, right?
Right.
So when they come in and they want to tell me all the details about their kid, I say it has nothing to do with the kid, right?
Yep.
It has to do with you not getting each other and supporting each other's pain around the kid, right? So is that in line,
Yes.
once again, with your work? Okay.
Totally.
Wow.
And the lack, again, it's just the skill of not knowing how to repair.
Yeah.
So what doesn't get resolved, right? Like each thing just gets compounded on top of the other, so much so that I'm never present in my relationship.
Yeah.
Right. I'm acting out my hurt from when you said X 5 years ago. Right. Like exactly, what you said. And this, it's stunning to me how people forget they're on the same team.
Yeah.
Right. They forget, oh yeah, I married you. Like you're who I choose. And one of my core secrets is when you wake up in the morning, it's a brand new relationship.
Yeah.
That this person is not supposed to get by on yesterday's love.
Yeah.
Right? That this relationship is brand new today. How are you going to feed it, nourish it, support it, participate in it today?
Yeah.
And I don't have kids yet, so, I don't know what that experience is like, and maybe it's going to be easy for me to say this right now, before I actually have kids, but I know that my relationship with my husband must come first, because whatever is happening between my husband and I is going to influence my child.
Yeah.
And I hold the infinite possibility and the conscious awareness that everybody can be important in a family. Like I'm not going to have to choose in a moment, and getting that it's love is a win-win, right? When I do what I need to do and take care of myself, my husband wins. When my husband plays golf, he comes home a happier man and is thrilled to get to do the things that make him happy and full. Yeah. And, you just make it important. It doesn't have to be big.
Yeah.
It's a big time, like it maybe date night is great, yes, right? Date night's great, but every day, have you connected, right? Have you told each other what you appreciate about each other? Have you really, at the end of the day, cleaned up anything that you're holding right, from the day. So you just become unwilling to carry it.
Yeah. Very, very few couples or people that I work with that are just beginning to date, very few of them take the pulse of where they're really at and present that to the other. It's a very threatening thing to do, to look at the truth, it's just the simple idea that if I say to you that I'm having some concerns, no matter what stage relationship we're in, I threaten the potential loss of the relationship. And that's a very difficult thing. And that's a really big reason to have coaching happen, because what happens is they do take the pulse of their relationship, and you know how they do it? They begin criticizing and getting defensive, and they begin attacking, and all of the arguments actually stem from the deeper notch under there, right? The deeper need of wanting to take a pulse on the relationship, which is, I'm not satisfied, right? I'm not happy with what's going on, so I'm going to go about it by telling you. And I just took an NVC course, and the week before that I took an authenticity course, and the week before that I took a self-love course, and I know the exact thing to tell you that you're doing wrong to make me happy. So it doesn't work. So it's a round trip process, and it has to be that. There's no other way. So let me ask you, when say that again?
Said. It's so funny what you just said. I took an NBC course, I took a self-love course. I have the answers now for what you need to do to fix our relationship. Those courses really worked then, apparently.
How do you know? Okay, let me say it from my perspective. When I have clients, I'll talk about female clients. When I have women that get a handle on, this sounds a little facetious, but literally like laughing at the guy's stupid jokes, right? Like when they get a handle on actually really listening and being curious and going slower and not being the CEO, like they are in their work perhaps, but actually being feminine. I know that's a big topic. They get call after call from guys, and they start getting asked out. And it's a really big struggle for a lot of them to make that switch. And it's a really specific switch. And it has to do with often, what the guy is really projecting it'll be like, to be with the woman. And this is not about age or size or your weight or your exercise or your, overeating or your, I mean, it could be if someone's really, into food or whatever, but it's so often just, do I feel like I'm being listened to? That's what's going on for the guy. Am I being listened to? And I'll acknowledge something that's a really big problem for women, though. So I'll acknowledge that, okay, yeah, the man wants to be listened to, but we have a really big problem with a lot of men. If men get that opportunity, they'll talk and talk and talk and talk, and they're not present to like whether they're connecting at all with the woman. So here's the woman in her position of wanting to use this pattern of doing a criticism to tell him to shut up. Okay. And remember, on the first several dates, it's observing, right? And I don't care what it is. It could be a sweet thing to give a guy a little hint about his behavior. It might be, but man, 95% of the time, if you are coaching a man on etiquette, it's bad. It's a really, really bad sign. If he has not learned at 38 years old to stop talking and listen and have an actual conversation, you don't want to coach them on that. So this is the kind of thing that we go, back and forth on. Is that the type of thing that you're doing?
Yes.
With women? Okay, it's similar. Okay, you're laughing.
Oh yeah. That observation piece is so important. It's so important to be dating from, I'm, gathering information about who this person is, not making conclusions about who this person is. And, it's whenever people ask my husband about our first date, what he says is, I felt listened to.
Really?
He says it was the first woman that I had ever been on a date with where I could tell that she genuinely cared about who I was and what I had to say.
Oh.
Every time you ask my husband about our first date, that's what he says.
Wow.
And, I can hear the women who are like, well, I want to be listened to too. Right? So why should I give to him, and make him feel listened to? And that healing of recognizing that when a man feels listened to, he can't wait to give to you.
Yep.
Like that'll be his natural response.
Yep.
Right? Love is a win-win. Right? When I get that helping my partner feel good is what creates him wanting to give to me. And a man, right? I appreciate that he's projecting, what it would be like, right, to be in partnership with this woman. I also teach he's checking with how he feels about himself in your presence.
No, wow.
Right? Like, do I like how this feels? Like, does this woman make me feel good about myself? Right? And then, right, he'll jump through hoop, he'll jump up and down, he'll do whatever, right? Whatever you want. And that can only happen, right, when I've done the work to heal my relationship with men, right? Because so many women have been hurt by men.
Yeah.
And if we haven't healed that, then that's what I'm dumping onto the guys I'm dating, right? Rather than I do the work to heal and clear so that I totally find the good in the divine masculine and respect who men are and understand who men are and let the person in front of me be a new man to me rather than, oh, he better not be like my ex, right? Or, I'm going to make him be the one to help me heal all the past hurt, right? Which just isn't fair.
Yeah. It's interesting being very much an advocate, for women, but I want to note specifically that it's a 50-50 game here. There are a ton of things that we could spend another hour on about what I coach men on. And when I talk about women criticizing, men can, buy a vowel, and match that with, their hiding, their, lack of showing their feelings, hiding the masculine male sexuality part of them, and putting that energy elsewhere, so there's a whole equivalent of things that men do to pull away, which, cause women to stay in their pattern. So it's an equal playing field for sure. And a lot of people really want to make it the same, like we all are doing the same things, and men and women are very different in what we're seeking and approaching and looking for. So if a woman wants to work with you and heal this and fix this, and where do they go? How do they find you? And what's the starting point?
Well,
Website?
I hang out on Facebook the most. So Catherine Hummel on Facebook, and my website is catherine-hummel.com. And they can set up a free 45-minute consultation with me. So we get to know each other and ask a bunch of questions and make sure we're a good fit.
Okay. 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 And if you call her and you're in my group, it's just it's the my web my website's understandeachother.com. They'll probably tell you my name, but the Facebook group is called Relationship Mastery. So they might say either of those two things. So they can set up that call with you, and then do they have options to take courses with actual digital products and or counseling with you? Is it all in one? It's kind
There's
of
a whole bunch of options.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
a whole bunch of options. Yeah, there's the self-directed online programs and then the one-on-one coaching.
Okay, and what city are you in?
I am in Situate, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So south of Boston.
Boston. And does that mean that when you do couples work, that needs to be in person, or
Yes.
are you doing video?
So far I'm only doing in person with the couple. And what I have watched happen is when I work with the wife, she like bringing consciousness to her can transform the relationship. And so I haven't done enough on video, I'm totally trusting that maybe it could work, but there's something to be said about of like being in person and seeing body language and being connected. So.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you one that you can think about for your practice. Couples sometimes drive, or actually several have flown in like for a weekend, but the big one that happens more is driving really long distance, and they'll see me once a quarter for like a 4-hour session, or maybe 2 days in a row, 4 hours each day, and then video in between during the quarter.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, if they can afford it, it makes the video 10 times more effective if they can only meet me that first time in person.
Yeah.
The first time, it changes the whole video experience. It's like mind-boggling.
Right.
So that's an option. Do couples have an obvious option on your website to do like a full day, or do they call you first and you tell them all about that?
They would call me first.
Okay.
And I will only work with a couple if they do a full day.
Okay.
So we start like that is how the work begins, that we do a day.
Well, that's really fun. I have been asked to go to several locations. I've done it a couple times. It's a really interesting concept to go to another state. I haven't been asked to go to another country, but to go to another state and spend a weekend literally in the environment of the couple.
Oh, wow.
That's, I don't know. There's something to be said for them getting out of their environment and having a different experience instead of me melding into their place. They have all their patterns. So I'm not sure about that yet. Anyway.
I can imagine as I, feel for myself I like them leaving their environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be vulnerable. And that's part of the experience when they step into a new environment in an office, right? Then that's right. Their body then says, oh, there's a new possibility.
Yeah.
Right. There's like a lot of energy if I'm creating a new possibility in an old environment.
Okay. Should we put this up publicly too? Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'll link I'll put your website on it, and it's been really fun.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Yeah. This is Catherine Hummel, and I will circle around and let's check in 6 to 12 months. Let's do another. Let's see where we're at.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.